Welcome to this Jing. The purpose of this presentation is to give you an overview of this three-page document, which will be particularly helpful as you write your table of specifications. Let's take a look at the 3 pages that we have now. The first page is focused on the cognitive domain, and this particular domain dates back all the way to 1956 in work that Benjamin Bloom did. Let's scroll down and take a look at the second domain then, which would be the affective domain. This domain dates back to 1964. And then the third page we have in our document is for the psychomotor domain. This is the most recent domain that was worked on, which goes back all the way to 1972. Let's scroll back up to the cognitive domain then. This is the one that we tend to work in probably more so than any other as educators. On the left-hand side, we have a complete description of each of the categories in the cognitive domain. And the categories of knowledge and comprehension are thought to be really lower level in the cognitive domain. And then some people actually include application level as a lower level, but some include it as a higher level as well too. But for sure, the analysis, synthesis, and evaluation, those are thought to be all levels or categories that are considered higher level thought processes. So here we have a complete description of each of these categories. And then in the middle part of this particular page, we have verbs that are really helpful in starting off what will be your general instructional objectives. So we can start with verbs like knows, which relates to the knowledge category. Or we can start with verbs like understands, interprets, translates, estimates. Those are all verbs that work well with comprehension. And then we have verbs that work well with application and with analysis, synthesis, and so forth. On the right-hand side, we have a listing of verbs then that are great ways to start off specific learning outcomes, or SLOs. And I've found that probably 95% of the time I actually find the verbs that I really want to start my objective with. But occasionally you'll have to create your own verb to start things off. Notice these all start with capital letters, they all end with S's. And I should point out, especially in the cognitive domain, there are a couple of verbs that you'll find in different categories. For example, the verb estimates. We find it here as comprehension. And then later on, we can actually find it listed too as in the synthesis category, and it's actually found in, I think it's in here. Yep, it's also found in the evaluative category as well too. So there are, I think, about 3 or 4 different verbs that you can find in different categories. For example, describes is one that's found in other categories. The verb identifies you actually can find in some other categories as well too. So if you're saying that something is synthesis, for example, you want to be sure that it really does fit, that category description. So let's come down and take a look at the affective domain then too. And this one is structured in an identical way. On the left-hand side, you've got a description of all the categories. In the middle, you've got great verbs to begin your GIOs, and then you've got great verbs to start your SLOs. And you will notice that some of these verbs are the same as what you've got in the cognitive domain too. So again, you want to go back and be sure it really fits a category before you decide that this is organization, for example. And then taking a look at the final page we have in the document, this is for the psychomotor domain. This particular domain, there are 7 different categories. The descriptions are a little briefer, but in the middle it's structured the same. We've got great verbs for GIOs, great verbs for SLOs, and again, all these verbs start with capital letters and they end with S. So hopefully this has been a helpful overview for you. Again, you can use page 527 to 532 if you'd like a little more clear copy.